Task number 12 is the study guide to prepare you for your Gerunds test, basically everything you've learned about Gerunds up to this point. What I would do first is complete the study guide and then come back and watch the screencast to see how you did. But basically, for this test, you need to explain what a verbal is, explain what a gerund is specifically and how it's formed, identify gerunds and gerund phrases within the context of a sentence, identify the job the gerund is doing, and basically remember everything else that you've learned about grammar and sentence structure up to this point in the school year. All right, so what is a verbal? A verbal is a verb that acts as a noun, adjective, or adverb. It's not doing the job of a verb. And we have three kinds. Gerunds are the first ones we're talking about. Participles, and we've already spent some time talking about infinitives, but we haven't really looked at what, I know that's spelled wrong, I'm sorry, infinitives. But we haven't really talked about what they're doing within the sentence, and that's what we'll get to. So we are just focusing right now on these guys, on gerunds. All right, what is a gerund? It's a verb that ends in ing, and it acts specifically as a noun. And how do you form them? Well, you just take the verb and you add ing to it. What are the jobs a gerund can do? Well, since gerunds act as nouns, they can do the same jobs that nouns do. They can be direct objects, indirect objects, subjects, appositives, objects of prepositions, or predicate nouns. And then just to make sure you know these, you should have these memorized because this is where, as we start labeling sentences, it's really hard to figure out the direct object and indirect object without understanding how they focus and fit into sentences. All right, so with that part done, now we're going to look within the sentences of context and look to see if we can't find the gerund. And if I say gerund from this point forward, if the gerund includes some phrases, some modifiers, then that's part of the gerund and you include it. So reading a good book is my favorite way to spend a rainy day. The first thing I would do is find the verb that ends in ing, which is reading. Now I have to think about, is it just reading by itself or is there something more to it? So my check here is, a good book is my favorite way to spend a rainy day, which actually kind of does sound okay, but I know it's not just the good book that's the favorite way. Reading the good book is my favorite way to spend a rainy day. And so here I can tell that it's being used as the subject of a sentence. What is my favorite way? Reading a good book is my favorite way. So that's a subject. The best way to learn is by making mistakes and correcting them. So I'm going to look for my verb that ends in ing, and I see two, making and correcting. So let's see if those are gerunds. The best way to learn is by, and I see a preposition by. I'm going to go all the way, I get to a conjunction that tells me that there are two parts of this prepositional phrase. So by making mistakes is one object of the preposition, and correcting them is the other object of a preposition. So the gerund has a little modifier, a complement that goes with it. All right, after seeing a scary movie, my mom checks under my bed for monsters. So I'm going to find my gerund, and here it is, seeing. And I see that after is in front of it. After seeing a scary movie is the whole prepositional phrase. That means that seeing a scary movie is the entire gerund phrase acting like the object of a preposition. Number 4, buying on credit will quickly get you into debt. So I see buying is my gerund here. Now I'm going to kind of cover that up and see is on credit will quickly get you into debt. That doesn't really make sense. Buying on credit will get, there's my verb. So buying on credit is the subject of that sentence. It tells what will quickly get you into debt. Number 5, my brother admitted telling our parents what I had done. All right, so my brother admitted telling is my gerund. My brother is the subject. Admitted what? Admitted telling our parents what I had done. This whole thing acts like my gerund phrase. And since it comes after an action verb and it tells what my brother admitted, this whole thing acts like a direct object. And you can see that within this gerund phrase, look, there's a dependent clause attached to that entire gerund phrase. Okay, so this one's a little bit more complex. But when we think about what makes sense, my brother admitted what? He admitted this whole thing. He just didn't admit telling our parents. It's telling our parents what I had done. So that whole thing acts like the gerund. My family planned remodeling the house next summer. My family planned remodeling. So there's my gerund. Family is the subject. Action verb is planned. Planned what? Planned remodeling the house. And remodeling the house, when are they going to remodel it? Next summer. So this describes when they're going to remodel the house. So it's included as part of the direct object, as part of the gerund phrase. That's acting like a direct object. All right, I'm going to ask you to finish the last few on your own. And when you are ready to have it checked, you can bring it up and we'll review it together.